And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because I had to replace my monitor. The monitor I had been using is the same model that my kid has. So I swapped power supplies, and he has to go back to college. So guess who had to try to find either a new power supply or a new monitor? I have a new monitor. I hate it. So if you see it suddenly getting brighter and dimmer and brighter and dimmer, that's because it's got this wonderful automatic dimming and brightening feature that I haven't been able to figure out in a day and a half where it is so I can turn it off because I've been otherwise busy. Hi. It's the way it's going to be. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble. You can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Hi. Let me go ahead and invite you in to have a little peek at how things have been going over here because, holy crap, we have, back from the Midwest of the U.S., Brigid Fitch. Hi.
Hi, y'all. Long time no see.
Yeah. See?
I'm glad to be here.
Told you we didn't put her into the loony bin. Yet.
Not that I don't deserve it, but
And from the left coast, still rejoining us because apparently therapy is the order of the day on this show. Io is able to join us again. Hi.
Hi.
It's the way it is, man. It's the way it is. Yeah,
Yes, I'm doing the Stitch thing.
yeah, it's been an interesting it's been an interesting 2 weeks. As I was just telling the guys that this past weekend was my wife's birthday, so it was also the day that I went off to go see the kid at the summer intern that he has been doing. So I got the chance to see all the costumes and whatnot that he had been working on in use, which was an hour and a half, give or take, hour 45 of a ballet performance, which involved a bunch of costume changes that went very quickly behind the scenes because it was get behind the curtains, run to the run to the stairs, go up a flight, change, come back down again, get ready. Oh yeah, it's just about time for us to go on. Oh, it's a second past time for us to go on. Okay, let's go. And there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff that they did. I'm glad that he's not there anymore. There were things, let's just say that it was a great experience for him, but the way that they treated him and some of the others, no. The likelihood of him going back there again, prestigious that it might be, no. So earlier today, I brought him back to college. He is going to be helping with orientation again, which, good. And so if anybody would like to help support his college tuition, that would be wonderful. We'd love to have your money. Thank you. Anyway, so I've had an interesting day of sleeping off part of the whole sad because it is what it is, and it's good to be back with you guys. Over in the live,
I found it quite enjoyable watching your trip on the way back.
Yep.
So I was one of the people watching you, and I was quite pleased when you got home.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I do on occasion, depending as to what kind of a mood I'm in, I will go ahead and I will share my drive on Waze, which is the mapping software that I tend to use because people get to update the map. Like, for instance, letting me know that a kilometer ahead there is a police kind of hidden in the tall grass shooting with laser beams. I'm not making that stuff up. That's literally what ends up happening. This little thing comes up and lets you know that the police are there. So, being that the speed limit is 65 miles an hour, roughly translates to roughly 110 kilometers per hour. I have a tendency of setting my cruise control at 69 miles an hour, just so that I can have them look at it and go, yeah, I wouldn't be able to write them up for that. There's no way they would take that seriously. They would think I was screwing around with them. Because, that's me. Over there in the...
Malicious compliance. Yes.
That... Exactly right. Over the live chat, by the way, good morning, folks. Stephanie, did see you over there. Good to have you back. Thank you. And, well, Io's there, too. Hi. Fearless, you made it. Good evening over there. And it's good to be back with you. For those of you that are wondering, what is on the agenda for today for drink? I still have one of the honey-based that I got some weeks ago that I didn't try yet. Myers Creek Brewing Company, Mau Honey, Mau Kolsch. How the hell do you even pronounce that? I don't even know how you say it. Kolsch. Sure. I'm going to go with that.
Mm.
I don't care. So, yeah, I'd gotten a couple of honey-based. The last one was beer. I mean, it did have some honey taste to it, but, it is what it is. There we go. Oh, look at that. It didn't fizz all over the place. And, oh, really? It's going to smell like beer.
It's gonna taste like beer.
It might.
And Felis asked, and I'm playing with stickers because I'm working on my bullet journal, because I realized I hadn't done August, and I hadn't actually really done any of the other months, putting stickers in and making it pretty and stuff. I do it so it's available, not necessarily for me to use, but so that it's available for me to use. And I like stickers. Okay, I'm a kid at heart.
Nothing wrong with that. Considering some of the stuff that comes through the shop for me. Yeah, I'm still very much a kid at heart at times. Brigid, I don't know if you had seen the pictures that I had posted of, you know how kids have got those, cute little cardboard reader books? They're like super thick and they're just cardboard so that they can't accidentally... Yeah, War and Peace.
In a cardboard book?
And it was about as thick as two of my fingers.
It must have been a very abridged version.
Yeah, a buddy of mine suggested that probably what they did was took out all the long Russian names and just truncated it to like one syllable, perhaps, and maybe that helped to cut it down a bit. I don't know. I didn't read it. I saw it was in one of the bins to be sorted as I was walking by and had to do the cartoon-ish double take of stopping and literally walking back 3 steps backwards to look at it and go, no. And the person's processing is just like, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't read it.
Just because we have to grow old does not mean we have to grow up.
But that's true. And I remember this is a little funny story about last weekend at the truck stop. The poor team lead, or actually he was a manager, I think, that was having to work from 7P to 7A.
Joy.
We all come in, at 6 o'clock. A couple of us come in, and he says, "Go team!" just as loud as he can. And then I was like, "Idiot, hurrah!" And then he kept going, "Go team!" And I kept repeating that. And then he said, "Go team, go!" And I was going, "Idiot, hurrah! Idiot!" He's like, "I have no idea what that was." And I was like, "It was some practice of my Ukrainian, dude." I just went with it. Sounded like fun.
This is why I miss her. So, it's good to have you guys. I've got news I'll be able to give you once we get into the horrible scopes, because I've got news. And don't worry, it's actually kind of good news. So,
hey, I'm ranting. I know those horrible scopes, and I'm ranting on that one. I have reasons.
No, that's perfectly fine, is actually good news. So we'll get to there momentarily, and we'll do that. Oh, as an aside, by the way, just so that everybody is aware, yes, I have a very nice purple shirt. It doesn't look like it on the camera because it is what it is. And I love the color. I miss having the purple shirt that my wife had bought me years ago. It was a, oh God, now I'm trying to remember, mandarin collar. So it, like, it didn't have wings for the collar. It just kind of came up and kind of crossed over the center line to button closed. And everybody would look at me when I wore it because it was a very dressy thing, and I'd have my, nice dress pants and dress shoes to go along with it. And everybody assumed that I was a priest. No, not so. I mean, probably wearing a black suit jacket along with it probably didn't help the imagery very much, but you know what? I miss that shirt. One of these days, I'll get one again. When I've got discretionary capital again. But we'll deal with that. So let me get everything rolling because I've got your 5-minute freestyle. And that's going to go ahead and get us started right about now. Hopeful. Now, I've told you guys before that there are only a handful of podcasts that I listen to. Two that I've continued to listen to for a very, very long time. Scathing Atheist and Cognitive Dissonance. I still listen to them. They're about the only two that pop up for me anymore. I've got a couple that I'm still subscribed to that, haven't updated in a very long time. And I kind of miss it. Sam Mulvey's Ask an Atheist, for instance. I'm not sure what's happened, but I need to check. One of the things that Scathing Atheist or Cognitive Dissonance had said is that there is a difference in the way the feeling of this new political scene here in the United States. When Barack Obama came on the scene, he was not exactly a nobody, but he's relatively, outside of the big sphere. Came out of Chicago. And you might remember the big posters, the stylized, colorized pictures, and the word hope at the bottom, big letters, just the word hope. And some people had been pointing out, it was a great time and things, it was a hopeful time. And yeah, all right, I'm on board, and I agreed. I very much agreed. And the past political follow-up to that was hardly that. And then Joe comes on the scene, and there is a true feeling of pulling things back into stability. And I'm all for that. We know full well, a lot of us know full well, that it's not done by any stretch of the imagination, but there is a decided difference in going from a teeter-totter, falling on the ground and breaking your coccyx more times than you care to count, to at least balancing a bit. But now, with Kamala Harris coming out, and the way that things have been progressing with her coming out, talking, being present, being hopeful for herself with her new running mate, who is just an absolute dreamboat. Oh my God. There is a feeling at this point, collectively, for a lot of people, and I can only definitively say it for myself, of being hopeful. And this is a new feeling. It really is. There's a My Little Pony song. I know. Just give me a minute. It's called Our Town. It's a really, really creepy song. And for anybody to who knows anything about it, the idea that creepy creeps into a My Little Pony episode, that how? Yeah, it did. And I'll make sure that we put it in the show notes, that song, Our Town. We have to listen to some of these words, these phrases that are used. Because in that song, it says, you can't have a nightmare if you don't dream. And that's really shocking to think about. Because don't we want to dream? Don't we want for better, for bigger, for things to go right, for there to be a look around the corner of, oh wow, that's so cool, let's keep going forward. Instead of peeking around the corner from kneeling down as low as you can and being worried that you're gonna get shot at, figuratively and literally. I, like a lot of others, I feel hopeful again. And this is a feeling that I have not gone with in a very long time, because I don't want to be disappointed. Nobody wants to be disappointed. Nobody wants to be hurt. But I don't necessarily want to stop dreaming. So with you, I sincerely hope that you kind of notice it and feel it too. I truly want us to be hopeful. But remember, just being hopeful is good, but being hopeful and being actionable is better. Make sure that you're ready to vote if you're here in the States. Yes, we'll go ahead and we will say all kinds of things as far as to what we want you to do, but ultimately, do your civil part. Make sure that you're ready to vote. And don't forget that before it's spooky season, so keep that in mind too. Plan ahead. Be a really good idea. So as a buffer, by the way, I've taken a couple of sips, you guys have noticed, of this beer Kolsch, honey-based Kolsch. I'm otherwise unimpressed. It's beer. Sad. I was really hoping for something with a little bit more, flavor of beer to not be there. I was very much hoping that it would be more, hey, it's got notes of honey, kind of like with the can design. Maybe not. Oh well, it will be what it will be. So let's go ahead and do the horrible scopes, because it is about that time for the horrible scopes. And remember what I said about the brightness changing on my screen? Yeah, I know. The horrible scopes, unfortunately, because they're in Google Docs, the background is in white, which, of course is brighter. But the dynamic brightness on this monitor is just blinding. I know, you guys are looking at me right now, and I'm all kinds of washed out, I'm sure, but it is what it is. So the long and short of it is, well, actually, let me do part of this intro, and then I'll explain it. Time for the horrible scopes. Those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. If not, you can just pick one, roll a d12, or you can just make it up as you go along. Doesn't matter. Better yet, check out Heart of the Game Fredonia. They will very shortly be able to sell you a 3-pack of dice, which includes a 12-sided astrological set. So I talked to the guy over there today, and I dropped in, I said hi, and showed him up the stuff, and said he's reading it over, he's having a good laugh, he's just like, oh, well, wait a minute. So the little one and I went to the back room to kind of look at some of the computer console games, and we come back out, and he's just like, you know what? I just checked the website for my suppliers. I can actually get dice of the astrological versions, and yes, I can see about shipping them too. Contiguous 48 states here in the United States, I can see about that. So I don't have any kind of a price tag for you guys, but very likely something in the $20 range is very likely what will end up happening, which would cover the cost of material and shipping. And I'm sincerely hoping, if that's the way that it's going to go, that, you guys pitch in a little bit, and just give them a little bit of a tip, just to be nice, because they haven't sent me a cease and desist letter yet, which is all kinds of
So
good.
us calling you out about it actually made it work.
Well, I stopped in. I showed him the my phone with the thing, and he's reading it over, and he's reading the intro, and he's laughing. And like I said, we went in the back. I left him to it and came back out, and he's just like, "Yeah, by the way, I looked it up." It's like, holy shit, this is actually really cool. So yes, we may end up supporting a local smaller shop. They don't have a web presence per se. You have to find them over on Facebook and message them to see about it, but it might be doable. And of course, as always, let them know that Shujin Triple sent you. Hail, hail, Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil. Remember, it's the shop with the mimic in the window. Except during orientation, because the mimic in the window is going to the library for a couple of days. I don't know how you're going to be able to figure it out, what it is, but if you do, you get a free vacation. I think I don't know exactly how that works on the inside of a mimic. You guys can figure it out. So there's no introduction written for the horrible scopes last night, so I kind of hastily wrote a non-introduction just before we went to air now, because the scopes were finished about 2 minutes before deadline last night, so you're not getting anything witty this time because it's all under pressure. If you want there to be something a little bit more, professional about it, how about paying me to do this for a living? It'll be money well spent, I think. There may be an edit that I have to do before the two of you read yours, because there was a fat finger moment that happened, and I still have to fix it. I just remembered. We'll get there. Aries?
We do have a Patreon account. Hint, hint.
Yeah, I got a notice from Patreon that said, "Yeah, you've got money in there that hasn't been touched in like forever, and we're turning it over to the state of Delaware because." And I'm kind of like, we do? Well, that's new. I didn't remember anything about this. So I guess I'll be logging into it soon to figure out what in the hell's going on. I know. I know. Bad boy. What can I tell you? Aries, just because you're occasionally forgetful doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Sometimes brains just, hiccup in the short-term memory area. Isn't anything for you to, concern over. So this week, you remember how to get from where you are to where you need to be and back again. And that's good enough. It's time to relax a little bit without using recreational chemicals. Like beer, apparently. Brigid?
Oh, I didn't know I was going to be next. Taurus. There are some things you find interesting that everyone else is pretty meh about, and you need to come to grips with that. We're not all going to agree with you that Tank Girl and Howard the Duck had the best movie soundtracks and female leads. You're welcome to believe that since it's just a personal taste thing, but expect some people to push back. So this week, try watching a movie from this century for a change.
Howard.
Personally called out here.
I loved Howard the Duck. Gemini, speaking of taste and entertainment, you're also allowed to dislike otherwise wildly popular music groups. Like, for instance, the Beatles. Okay, everybody else, settle down. This is not blasphemy. This is personal taste, and it's fine. Not everyone wants to listen to them, and you all just have to come to grips with that. So this week, see, Gemini, we come to your defense when you need it. But just to be safe, how about you sleep with a baseball bat or a nightstick under your pillow for a couple of days?
Yeah, sleep with one eye open.
Mm-hmm.
That's a musical reference, and some of you should get that. Maybe sleep with the ace of spades under your that's a different group. Never mind. Cancer Moonchild, you need to have a little fun with folks and you can't get together. So how about a tabletop game night, but do it remotely? If you all have accounts with Steam, you could all buy into Tabletop Simulator and play a bunch of games. No VR headset required. For $1,000. So this week, don't tell anyone else, but if you don't like the outcome of the game, you can totally flip the table. Just be a gracious winner.
Leo, go out to a store with a $50 bill and buy as many rubber duckies as you can. Take them home, pour them into a bathtub, fill it up, and join them for a relaxing evening together. Seriously, who can say that there's something wrong with this idea? So this week, don't show the scope to anyone that works in an emergency room. They will tell you what's wrong with this idea, and you will not appreciate being told what they know.
I'm not the only one that can hear the smile in her voice, right? I'm not the only one?
Rubber duck, ducks.
We actually have a big, huge bag of rubber ducks, but we randomly hand them out to strangers.
So do I. I've got those little resin ones, and I hand them out to strangers. I hide them around town. There's been one that's stuck at one of the churches nearby, and I go by it every week, and it's still there. It's been there for 3 months. Nobody has grabbed it. And what was really cool was on 4th of July, one of the merchants at the market fair grabbed me and said, "Do you know what my kids found? They found a couple of your ducks. They were digging in the grass over on the other side of the market, and they found it and a car." I actually checked with police, and they don't consider it vandalism so long as I don't glue them to things.
I should leave one with a mohawk in a rest area.
Actually, I was giving out Santa ones at Christmas. I was giving out hedgehogs, elephants, and axolotls at one point. But I just went back to ducks. There are let's see, Virgo. Let's see if I can do this one. There are a number of TLAs you know the meaning of, and others you don't, without realizing it. For instance, did you realize TLA stands for 3-letter acronym? I did it!
You did.
And OTLA is oversized 3-letter acronym. Technically that makes it a 4-letter acronym, but who cares? Not you pedantic pain in our posteriors. So this week, always antagonize everyone's ambidextrous alliterations.
And then there's an HETLA, which is a hyperextended 3-letter acronym, which is actually 5 letters, but I mean, who cares at that point, right? Don't make me go further. I know I have a list somewhere that actually goes through and does exactly that.
You know I'm going to be ranting.
I know. Libra, you want an e-bike but can't afford the $1,500 price tag? Well, we get that. Maybe the $500 conversion kit is still a little too much for you too. So how about you build it yourself? Just get yourself some 3D printed parts and a big-ass lead-acid battery and a soldering iron and lots of wires and circuit boards and LEDs and just do it yourself. So this week, you completely missed that we didn't even mention the motor, didn't you? Yeah, we're not trusting you with a soldering iron. Never mind on a bike that can drive 30 kilometers per hour. Just get out there and get in better shape on your own. Fair warning, I did not write this one because of IO. I wrote this one because we got a bike at the shop with disc brakes that could be retrofit to be an e-bike, and it's on the rack for $16. And I just thought about it.
Yes, and if you're on an e-bike and on the sidewalk, 1, wear a helmet, and 2, try not to go faster than the pedestrians.
It's probably a really good
You
idea.
could hurt somebody. That might be you.
Scorpio. What are you doing, Scorpio? You keep getting told how to mitigate the worst possible things, and what do? Oh, everybody, no. They're not doing the opposite. It's worse than that. They keep referring to everyone else's scope and following what that one says, thinking that they'll outsmart the stars. So this week, since you aren't bothering to listen to us anyway, you're on your own. Go have dinner at a restaurant all by yourself with milk to drink.
A burger joint and a milkshake doesn't count.
Sagittarius, speaking of dinner, you want to impress someone, including yourself? Here's how. Make some long pasta, like spaghetti, add diced pancetta, a pinch of red pepper, some fresh cracked black pepper, and then make bechamel sauce to cover it. Seriously, it's dirt simple. Butter, all-purpose flour, milk, and salt. Just follow the simple instructions. Probably find them on YouTube somewhere. And you'll think you're an amazing cook. So this week, you're allowed to not like caprese salad since you don't like eating raw tomatoes. But it's a sin to not like mozzarella.
True. It's true. Capricorn, this summer's biggest fun for you has got to be just lounging in the shade, watching the wildlife beyond the tree line. The land-based animals are cute most of the time, like deer and turkey. Yes, turkeys are land animals. You're welcome to fight us on this point, but ultimately, if someone looks up and says, "Look at that flight of turkeys," you'd think they were crazy. So this week, keep feeding the corvids. They will remember who you are. Because if you stop, they will remember who you are. Do not upset them.
That's true.
It's very true.
Aquarius. Quite true. Aquarius. Close your eyes and try to imagine what it was like being a child waiting for Santa to appear. You wanted to see him, but never could, and you believed so hard. And then what happened? Some kid in schoolyard was all like, "Hey man, that whole Santa thing, it's a government psyop, man. Your parents are in on it. Everyone's in on it. You think that's the same Santa in every mall? Come on, man, open your eyes. We're all body doubles." So this week, every time you think you could never been taken in by disinformation, just remember, you believed a whole disinformation campaign once. It could happen again.
Santa Claus, North Pole, Canada, HOHOHO. If you write, you will get a letter back. Pisces, good that you paid attention last week. Sounds like you kept everyone happy. Checking in on the stars to make sure nothing bad happened to you. So we'll go easy on you this time by making you be nice to yourself. So this week, just because you can't find coffee-flavored Coca-Cola doesn't mean you can't make the stuff yourself. Check out the Open Cola Project and drink responsibly.
Yeah, I had to point out that A, that actually is a thing, and B, most of the recipes are for making basically like a 5-gallon glass container, like they'd make beer in, of syrup. So just keep that in mind that if you're able to make the stuff, that's 5 gallons of syrup. And, it's only a couple of months until Christmas. You could make it and bottle it. Give it to your friends. Or your enemies. I don't care. Whatever you do with it is fine. Just
Orange oil, lemon oil, nutmeg, cassia/cinnamon, coriander, neroli, lime, lavender, gum arabic, citric acid, white sugar, caffeine, caramel color. Okay.
Yeah, it's not terribly difficult. It's just folks, just drink responsibly and chemicalize properly. Keep that in mind. Those are the horrible scopes. You remember, if you like what you got, I don't really much care because I try really hard every week, and people keep saying, "How do you come up with this stuff?" I put my music collection on randomize and then take inspiration from every song that comes up. That's literally it. That's literally it. If you,
The list of your songs.
yeah, if you know where to look, you can actually figure out what songs they are. Maybe, probably not. I mean, I've got a very large collection. If you'd like a better or nastier one for yourself or someone else, you can just let me know and bribe me with, vanity, because the vanity monster is real. Or you can actually bribe me for real. The coffee page, coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. As always, I'll have these posted at the end of the week. Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, BlueSky, my BlueSky thumb drive. I may have had it come to an untimely demise. I don't know where it is. I dropped it behind my desk over here when I put this new monitor on the tabletop. I don't know where it went. I know it can't have walked away. I don't have any large spiders to take it away, so I know it's here somewhere. It's just a question of where. Find it eventually. It's episode 504 on the docket runner. Maybe cities are societal good. Now, some people pointed out that, if you watch the video of the history of everything, I guess, I think that's what it is, by Bill, whatever his name is, Bill Wirtz. I think that's what it is. It's a long video, but it's an amazing video that chronicles the history of everything, from everything. And one of the things that was pointed out is that, you start getting commerce and laws and rules and people living together, you acquire society. And one of those pieces is large collections of people living together in cities and larger towns, or even just towns. And one of the things that I noticed, because it came up again, is one of the maps that shows what the political leanings tend to be here in the United States. And it's a map of, the contiguous 48 states. And it shows how each state has a tendency of voting red versus blue, which in the United States corresponds to the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party, one being red, one being blue. And unfortunately, in the United States right now, those are the two main, account for basically like 95% of all of the people that are voted into offices. There is a smattering, probably less than 5%, but that's usually what it comes down to. But then somebody also pointed out a different map that shows, well, if you take the population densities, and instead of you color in every state or every county by whatever color they tend to vote, but you use circles over the population centers and relativize the sizes of each of them for each of the areas, you start to see that where there are far lower density populations in these states that are otherwise seemingly completely Republican, the population density is really tiny and small. But you get to other places where there are large metropolis cities, the circles are far bigger, and they tend to be almost exclusively blue for Democrats. So I'm kind of wondering is there a correlation here between people who have a tendency of living far and away removed from so many other people that they can just have their bigotry just grow because they are away from, well, everybody, versus the people that live in quote-unquote cramped communities, cities? Let's give you a perfect example, like, well, everybody uses New York City, so let's use that. And everybody's got to kind of deal with each other. And they have a far, far, far higher percentage of people that tend to, deal with each other and want to understand each other, or don't have a choice but to listen and understand and sympathize and work together. Wondering if there really is, like I said, a correlation between the two, because it really feels like it. Now, before we get into the full piece of this, when I was taking Tiny Tribble to college from where he was interning for the summer, I told him about this topic, and he pointed out, and rightfully so, and I hadn't thought about it, one of the areas of the United States that had large swaths of just open, very, very little in the line of population, were the areas where, back in the earliest days of the country, you had the slave trade, and you had the South, and into the middle of the country, and into part of the central northern areas. And yeah, you had that whole line of where slavery was allowed versus disallowed. But you start to take a look at that, and as I pointed out to him, you know what? That is a point I had not thought about, and please forgive me the terminology here. It truly colors the way that we think about how this has played out. And like I said, after he reminded me of this, it really made me wonder, wow, damn, I think I actually did kind of notice something. And it's entirely possible others have pointed it out like crazy, and I just never knew about it. But I am someone that does not read up a lot of stuff, like, almost ever. So if anybody's going to go ahead and give me shit about, well, yeah, everybody knew this, I didn't. But I think it's a fascinating topic to kind of touch on anyway. So, ladies, we get to have a little bit of fun of societal introspection.
It's 2 for 2. UnrenownedTech has shown up.
Well, I did not see that because I was looking at my camera and not at the monitor. So, Tech, good morning. Good to see you.
Hello.
While I reorganize everything. Yeah, by the way, Tech, hi. Tech, Brigid, Tech. I know, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Never met her before. No, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get your name back over here.
Is Brigid the new IO or something?
Close to it. She just doesn't have the the ears.
Yeah, you wish.
So anyway, yeah, we'll get over to you there in just a second, boss. So, Io, Brigid, I'll give you guys first shot at this because he came in late and he didn't give me a late pass, so that's kind of the way it's going to work for a minute.
Well, I did a quick search in Google for the type of maps that you were talking about, and I found 3 different versions. One where the guy was describing what he had made. Another one is from the New York Times, which is the actual how people voted, and it's county by county. And you see lots of white. White as in there's nobody there to vote. It's all centered in the cities, even the small cities, towns, and villages. But lots of white. And then a bunch of maps showing the results of the 2020 election. I just quickly pulled those up and I shared them in the show notes for you.
Well, thank you. I thought I had one of those websites with the the stuff in the notes already.
Hmm.
Okay, cool.
I saw that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was afraid that I didn't actually add that, but that's okay.
It might have been a long time ago, but whatever.
But having said that, it depends on which browser you're using as to whether you can access the show notes ahead of time or not and get a description of the episode. I just thought I would
Mhm.
share that. If you happen to be
Yeah,
using
YouTube is
Edge,
cracking down on blocking and everything else.
yeah, if you happen to use
Yeah.
Edge and go preview the episode, it doesn't really give a description of what it's going to be about or the show notes ahead of time. But Chrome still does.
Well,
Okay.
I just pulled these infographics up because Biden had 253 and Trump had 213, and so the election hadn't actually happened according to this one graphic that I pulled up. It was still in the process of, but you can see how people were voting, like in state-wise, and the other two images, you can see more like the cities, how people voted. And the bigger the city, the more blue it was.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's that. By the way, I didn't see before. Seeker, hey, you made it. Hi. You having fun with the foodies? Okay, that's fine. Won't hold that against you. Fine,
Yeah.
Tech. I'll let you talk now. No, I didn't mute him or nothing. He's fine. It's all good.
No, I'm sorry. One of my cats is chasing the other cat, and the one cat ran out through the door, and the other one shut the door behind the cat, and it's just like
As you do.
it's just become a cartoon reenactment.
As you do.
Okay, now that I'm the designated distraction for the night, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Io, Brigid, hi. I'd like you to meet the new Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
Hey,
Nice to meet you.
hold on, let me get a cigarette.
Pain in my ass.
I don't have them anymore. Maybe if
I
I
need
look under the
alcohol
couch, I
to
might
deal
find
with
an old
this.
cigarette butt.
I got good news and I got bad news. It's beer. It's annoying. It's beer.
It's always going to be beer, Shujin.
No,
I know
no.
that you're persistent and you keep trying, but did you actually find one you like?
So we're essentially talking about, if I'm reading everything correctly, we're talking about how various population density and voting results, right?
Effectively, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's nothing new. That's an old You okay over there, Io? You sound like you're opening a can of cat food.
I'm sorry, I'm playing with my stickers. I'll go mute.
It's fine.
No, I was just curious. Literally sounded like somebody was opening by hand a can of cat food.
No, I was working on my bullet journal earlier, adding stickers, and I'll just mute myself unless I want to talk.
You need a fidget widget. I know what
Oh,
you're getting for Christmas.
I have
Anyway.
fidgets. I have lots of fidgets.
It's not anything new. This is not new knowledge in terms of voting results as relates to population densities and demographics of those population densities. For example, it's well known in the military that one of the easiest way to get recruits for the military for almost any damn near branch is to go out into the country and recruit from the people there. Go to the high schools and such, from the farmers' families and such, from the very rural communities. It's very easy to get volunteers for military there.
Well, let's also make sure that we're dealing with this the right way. Calling them volunteers at that point would otherwise convey a certain idea, but it seems to me that the folks that they grab from these particular areas tend to be less volunteer, meaning altruistically, and more, I'm trying to find some way of getting out, and you're going to help me get out, and then subsidize me for maybe college, maybe healthcare, and I say very maybe in very large scare quotes on that one. We know about that one, and it's more a way of these guys escaping the area that they grew up in, thinking that they don't have any other choices sometimes, right?
There's plenty of that, yes.
Yeah.
There's also plenty of those who feel that as a red-blooded American, it's their duty
Yes.
because they have a family in that area. There's a lot of family lineages. For example, it's not uncommon if you go through several of the very, very rural parts of Pennsylvania, which I have traveled through, to see literally the pictures and dates and the rank of people who died in World War One, World War Two, the Vietnam War, and so on, hanging from the sides of light posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see some people go so far as to decorate the houses, and I was like, okay, well, I can figure out whose house that is by looking at that light post. It's like, okay, they're related to that people. I now know who lives there, which that's kind of creepy in the amount of trust, but that's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same way with voting. When you have areas um, where when voting actually drastically affects, where they can see the results of their votes pretty quickly, you get higher voter turnout. And when you have areas where you don't see it as drastically or as quickly, you get lower voter turnout. That's overall. That's not that's not a perfect statement for every area of the United States because as we know in statistics, there are outliers more often than not. And we don't want to play it off as it doesn't exist. Um, and in some cases, when you have areas where they could see it quickly but don't, they get disheartened. And so when you have a state going, oh, we've just received, $1 billion for school renovations, and you go to, for lack of a better phrase, the ghetto, and their schools haven't received a damn dime, why do they care if they vote for somebody who says they're going to do better for the school system? Their school didn't benefit. They didn't see any of that money. Their neighborhood's still their neighborhood. Nothing got better for them. Why should they vote? And
That
that's,
hurts.
yeah. And there's a lot of reasons and explanations as to why that occurs. Um, and it's not necessarily the same for every disenfranchised neighborhood or ignored or segregated. It can be the same reasons for some, but it's not always the same. But there's a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of things that better politicians could be doing to help out those neighborhoods very quickly, I might add. It's like when you meet somebody who's hit rock bottom. It's real easy to go up from rock bottom because there's no more down. There's only up.
That's
Well,
that's
there is the final rock bottom, but let's not get into that one first.
um yeah, there's an overlap into American politics currently with the whole what qualifies as rock bottom, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that is a
Rock
topic for
bottom can
another,
be redefined several times.
and it
What I'm saying
has,
is,
and it
yeah,
has.
oh, it has. But when, if you meet somebody who has claimed to have hit rock bottom, have a conversation, sit down and listen to their story, hear where they're at, and identify key points. Try to help them realize key points that can maybe help them up a little bit, offer to help them up a little bit, um, and you'll find that you've helped turn a person around 180 very quickly. It's the same way for those kinds of neighborhoods. They are so beaten down, they are so ignored, that even just a little bit of attention to some of those neighborhoods brightens the day immeasurably compared to a neighborhood that's already well to do, it's already well off. The school system has all the perks and benefits and everything else. Spending $100,000 on that school system is going to do nothing. Spending $100,000 in a school system that has nothing is like winning the lottery.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is not very dissimilar to what I was talking about with the opening of
Okay.
that, instilling that feeling of hope when there is something that you can actually put towards.
Yeah, I mean, somebody that I work with has experienced some very troubling times, and everybody's like, "Oh, your family's in our thoughts and prayers," and I hate that crap. I really freaking hate that crap.
You're not
So
the
when
only one.
when the person was alone, I took them aside and I said, "Hey, look, um, I don't pray. I don't think it actually solves anything. But if you need some help, I know how to cook. I can mow a lawn. I have my own lawnmower too. It's eco-friendly. It runs on electricity. It's battery operated. But if you need some help, you just need to let me know, and I'll do what I can. Okay? All you have to do is ask.
Thoughts and prayers for
Yeah.
ears.
hmm
We were talking about that before we got started with the show. So thoughts and prayers for ears.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers for ears. I
I
promise
know
you,
a
it's
lot of
not
people who
it's not
think,
the alcohol.
but I know there's a lot of people who treat voting the same way I treat thoughts and prayers, that it's useless. And I know that I hit nihilism many times over the last 4 years, where I have severe bouts of nihilism, like with the whole Trump and Biden thing and everything else. Um, but I'm not nihilistic right now, not because of Harris, but because of Walls. Now, that may sound like a white guy going, "Oh, there's a white guy on the ticket. I feel better now." It's like, no, no. Actually, at first, I was really pissed off that Harris chose Walls, and I was like, "You fool! You could have had so many better people that more Americans are well aware of, that know him very well, and like an astronaut, where I would love to see him walk in, Kelly walk in and go, "Sit down, the astronaut's talking." Now, granted, his personality, he never would have done something like that.
No,
But I would have paid like pay-per-view levels of money to see that. Um,
I don't know, man. Buzz Aldrin would
but
have been an interesting personality. Have him come in,
yeah.
taking a swing at the reporters, but
Oh God.
that's an old
Yeah.
1970s thing. But that's a whole
Yeah.
other thing.
That's it. Yeah, that's for another show. Um, but when I looked up Walls before they started announcing all his qualifications and such, I looked him up first, and I started reading through his history, his very public history, and I went, "Son of a bitch. They just performed like an appendectomy without the patient knowing they took out their appendix." Because Walls is uh, holy crap.
Welcome to the
He
show.
hits on Yeah, he hits so many levels, so many demographics all at once
Mm-hmm.
that he can relate to, not just gun owners, but also sensible gun laws and feeding kids instead of, forcing Bibles down their throats, and just everything that he's done and has a public record of. I was like, man, you want to talk about a bullet, that one lonely shot coming out of the grassy knoll? Walls is the round that comes out of a howitzer. Harris may actually have a chance to do some real good with him on his side fighting for her.
He's a
Because he'll
good
bring in
guy.
the support that she couldn't bring in by herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that she's not capable. I'm saying there's a lot of people who would have never voted for her because of whatever their reasons being. Um, Walls has being on the ticket with her has changed some of those people's minds. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance. Okay, I'm no longer nihilistic.
Cool.
And that's
And
what I mean by by turning somebody around who thinks, hit rock bottom in terms of politics. I hit rock bottom. I was like, fuck it. Nothing I do is going to change anything. Nothing anybody else does is going to change anything. I need to move.
Yeah, that's going to prove to be interesting. Brigid, it's been a while. Come on, give us
You remember how
something.
to talk, right?
Well, I don't really have
Don't do this.
much to offer on, the particular topic without coming out and saying that I've been walls pilled myself. I have seen several of his speeches now in different venues, and he has such a way of, yeah, he has a basic stump speech, don't get me wrong, but he's able to change it depending on where he is, what state he's at. He does his homework and can find some way to connect with the locals there, even though he's not from there. Like, yeah, today I was amazed when he went to Nebraska and called up references to Runza sandwiches, and he's like, and I bet you when Vance gets here next week, he's not going to know what a Runza is. He's going to call it a Hot Pocket. And people started cracking up.
Hot Pocket.
And then he said, and as far as like the pregame events that we went to back when I was going to school here, and it was the Huskers versus the Sooners, and people were like, yeah. And he's like, I am so glad that there wasn't video around back then at some of those times. And people were cracking up because he could relate to it. He was talking their language. And he's had an ability to do that wherever he goes and makes it more personal and more local to them, which I have never seen anybody have quite that ability to do before, especially as a VP pick.
Well, not outside of fiction, anyway.
Outside of fiction, I mean, Obama was great as an orator and could bring, hope and had a great message and was amazing at it. But this guy who comes in and is being like America's dad,
Yeah,
it
right?
was such a brilliant move that I just never would have expected.
Yeah, when he said get off the couch, I
Yeah.
I
just
know.
laughed. Like I legitimately wow. That
I
was such
did
a dad
too.
joke, and it was perfect.
And it shows that he knows the internet meme game and isn't afraid to use it, but he's not using it in such an ugly, horrible way, but in a way that will evoke laughter.
He is a surgeon.
And it's in the whole weird thing has gotten underneath Trump's skin like nothing else has.
Well, that
Because
and the size of Harris's rallies have got.
well, yeah, the size of the rallies is getting to him, but you could call him a dictator. You could call him a strong man. You could call him a tyrant, and he thrived off of that strong man language. It energized him. And, and deplorable didn't work. People wore that as a badge of honor, but this whole weird thing is causing an implosion because they don't know how to handle being called weird. There's really no comeback for that. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah. The only comeback they've got is basically, I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah.
No, you're you. No, guys, no.
Who would have thought that one word?
And the picture, the article link that just put into the Discord before the show. Go ahead and explain that.
Oh, the one that I dropped?
Yes.
Oh, it is a picture from a Trump rally that took place earlier today.
I've been
of,
finding more pictures just like that.
yeah,
And it's hilarious. It's basically the Trump slash MAGA people holding out a specimen cup with the words JD Vance sperm.
and a picture of ants on it.
Mm-hmm. I, I
So they're
have no
saying that
words.
he's kindly wiggles around and is very salty.
Well, it's only salty if you get at the back of the tongue, I've understood.
But it's a
I'm,
heartless dig at people
I'm
who
just going
have to
on
use
third-hand
IVF and
knowledge.
can't get pregnant without technological assistance.
He wants to be a serial donor. He wants to end up fathering thousands of children. Ooh, the child support alone. Oh,
Oh, he wouldn't have to pay it. Everybody else would.
Sir, I have met Genghis Khan. You are no Genghis Khan.
Honestly, somebody who has this kind of mentality of wanting to go around and impregnating all these people and stuff, um, I'm wondering if maybe chemical castration should be in the future.
yeah. The donor conceived groups are really upset about all of the men that are multiple major donors, as in they go to different countries to donate, and they donate at different donation centers. If you know,
Yep.
yeah,
And we
and
had a problem here in Indiana with that as well with Dr. Klein.
yeah, I recognize the name. Yeah,
Yeah, running the IVF clinic up near Indianapolis, and he was using his own semen to impregnate his patients and lied about it. And ended up having like over 100 and something kids. And the town found out about it because one person went on 23andMe and started going, wait a minute, I've got some siblings here that I don't know about. And then they started having to warn populations in this town that you need to get your DNA checked before you get married because you might be related to almost anybody in this town. Be sure to check.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
But the thing about it is, when it went to court here, the AG at the time was a Quiverful supporter. So were several other people that were, in charge of the courts and the judges and things in Indianapolis at the time. Saw no problem with what he did. They didn't see it as illegal. Some of them are also Quiverful.
Yeah. By the way, you guys over there in the MAGA group who are looking for a cup, maybe to use and tote around for a while, you might want to see about buying yourself one of these cups. With a very nice religious personality on it, with some wonderful quotes from them. Give it some serious consideration. It might actually change some lives. For anyone that's listening, it's a picture of a one Mr. Fred Rogers. May you always rest in peace, sir.
Yeah, I would actually stipulate they should buy the one only with Mr. Rogers on it, because when you say religious figure, I guarantee you there's people who have coffee cups with Jerry Falwell on it.
Oh, I know.
I'm sorry, Fartwell.
I know, but people, it's so easy to forget that Fred Rogers was a minister, a literal like ordained minister, and I never knew this growing up. I didn't have
never
to.
Took advantage of kids.
Yeah.
He just wanted kids to learn. Anyway, can we go back a bit to schools that are underfunded?
That sounds like a really good idea because, man, that is a big piece of it all too.
Mm-hmm.
In this town here, there is a school that is so very underfunded that the city will not fix the streetlights for at least another 2 years in order to make it safe for the kids to cross. And the street out in front of where the school is, it's not a matter of if you're going to hit a pothole, it's a matter of how many potholes you're going to hit. It's that bad. And the other street is a major thoroughfare. There's only two ways for kids to get to the school from the side of the street that I live on, and that's either by the overhand pass, which isn't safe because homeless, drug addicted, needles, other stuff, broken things are found up there daily. The kids and the parents don't like going up there. Parents with strollers can't take the strollers up there, so they have to use the crossing. And the city will not fix it. And there was a woman that screamed at City Hall that there was going to be an accident. And the week after there was an accident, the next week she screamed at City Hall again and said you almost killed the crossing guard and the kindergarten kids because it was lunch hour when this accident happened. She then collapsed and went to the hospital because of all the stress. That was me. That school is still not protected. The street, we've been pushing it and pushing it and pushing it in order to get the street to have a couple of changes. There's now a no right turn on red, like anybody listens to it, even though there's a blind corner. And that's one of the reasons why the accident happened. In 2 to 3 years, they might actually bother to fix that corner and add a few safeties like dedicated left turns and whatnot. This is just so the kids are safe to get to school.
There was a guy who got his town to fix the potholes. This is not necessarily a method I'm recommending.
I'm really hoping this is the one I'm thinking of.
He went out with permanent paint and he drew giant dicks.
Yep.
Some of the dicks were, since there were multiple potholes, he made some of the potholes look like the finishing move of a penile erection. Yeah. So
I would do that, except it's right in front of an elementary school. If it was a high school, I'd probably do it.
If
but
it
it's
was
an
a high school, you could probably
elementary.
get the high school kids to do it.
Yeah.
They'd probably come out and help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, do it. All the more reason. All the more reason.
Well, not technically. I wouldn't recommend doing it just because she's on this show, and it's recorded.
I'm using the royal you. I'm using the royal you.
And I can barely walk right now thanks to an e-biker.
But yeah, I mean, there are
ways.
There are ways.
Malicious compliance.
That's a good idea. I will pass that on to a couple of the people that I know, because this is also a very Latin community. And it's the poor side of town. This poor counselor can't get anything done for the poor side of town, even though it's where the city hall, the library, and the community center are all at. He can't get anything done in order to improve it. There are streets that are not safe for me to go up and down on as a pedestrian, let alone as a driver, because the trees have buckled the sidewalks so much. But besides that, the mothers of that school have been fighting to get a park in that area. The city got a grant in order to actually get that park done. And the city said, how can we use this money somewhere else? I know, we'll send it to the rich side of town. And the mothers screamed. And the mothers kept on coming back to City Hall. This was going on for like a decade. And they finally got the money about 2 years ago. And the City Hall said, no, we're going to send it to this rich side of town. The rich side of town that has wonderful horse trails, beautiful parks. This is the poor side of town where we have 2 parks that are both attached to schools. And you kind of wonder if they're even safe for your children to play in. They wanted a nice walking path from this one street to one of the libraries, their little local library. And it was a fight, and it was a fight, and it was a fight, and it was a fight. And these Latin ladies realized that I was an immigrant, and I was standing up, and I was speaking for them. And boy, did I have words. They taught me a couple of words in Spanish to use.
Having worked with a whole lot of Hispanic people in the food industry, I'm willing to bet I know at least half of what they taught you.
Gee, none of them were swear words. They taught me, I've completely forgotten how to say it now, but they taught me how to say, let them speak. And I was screaming it. It got so bad in the city council meeting that people were coming in from outside to find out what was going on, and the cops showed up, other than the one or two that usually are there, and the chief of police. And the next meeting, all the city council finally said, yeah, we have to say yes to this park plan. But they're fidgeting and fudging, and it's making it more like just a walking path instead of an actual park for the kids. And all the Latin community really cares about is that the kids have a green space where they can go from point A to point B and not worry about cars.
Yeah.
Well, they're being vindictive because
Yes.
how dare the peasants get uppity?
Yeah. Stephanie has pointed something out and kind of taking one step backwards for a second. How about using a cat face or a snake with gaping mouth? Referring to spray painting pictures onto these potholes in order to get them filled, because they're not troublesome imagery. That's the problem. You see, you go ahead, you deface the ground. It's cutesy. It's not offensive to anyone's pearl clutching hands. It's not going to get anything done because, well, there's no impetus to go ahead and cover it up because puritanical
I
reasons.
guess I could get some spray paint and a couple of pieces of cardboard to protect the cars as I paint close to them.
Yeah.
Or find out when the street sweepers go by, and you know, I could.
Yeah.
But then again, some of the parents might say, "Oh, you're doing that? Let's help."
Yeah.
Here.
For the record, I have considered the idea of how to. Okay, some of you do not understand this reference. Some of you are old enough to understand this reference. Tech and I know full well are, because of our age and our affinity for all things technical. Once upon a time ago, there used to be a style of printer called a dot matrix. The idea is that you would have a print head that would go back and forth with a ribbon behind it, kind of like a typewriter, only it had a whole bunch of wires that would almost the same way that a tattoo gun would work, where it's punching a whole bunch of times against the ribbon in order to press the ink into the paper. But it was a line of them, and it would go back and forth, and it could do virtually anything. Amazing pieces of technology. I've wondered, with a little bit of know-how, is it possible to get chalk dust into a whole bunch of little containers and a whole bunch of little nozzles at the front or the mid or the back, somewhere under a car, with a little, computer controlled, maybe an Arduino, how hard could it possibly be, in order to, quote unquote, paint with chalk dust onto the road in front of, in particular, maybe houses that could definitely use a go fuck your feelings moment. I don't know where that could possibly come from, but it's just a thought. I'm sure that somebody out there has probably tried to develop such an item. I'm sure I'm not coming up with anything new, but you could literally write anything if you had enough chalk dust that way to spit onto the ground. Maybe you need a CO2 container or 3 in order to make it work. But I mean, hey, who doesn't do airsoft, right?
The problem is that I'm an immigrant and I really don't want to get in trouble with the police.
I didn't
But
say you.
chalk does disappear once you throw water on it.
Yeah. And, you do it when there's like 2, 3, 5 days worth of bright sunny days before it rains again. I mean, it'll be there for a little while until, it gets run over, whatever. Or
Months.
Maybe. No. No, it's chalk dust. It's whatever.
And it's months. Where I live, it's months. So anyway, we've been fighting City Hall and fighting City Hall and fighting City Hall. And the seniors that I'm also trying to represent, they basically got screwed over by City Hall. And there's nothing that can be done.
Yeah.
So I've been sitting there and I've been calling them out with different names. The last time I was at City Council, I called them insufferable hosers after being very complimentary and thanking them for making it so that I could live in a seniors complex because it's no longer a seniors complex. Another time, I described the three of them as Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Another time as the Three Stooges, and another time as a banned Guinness commercial.
Mm.
People wait to see what I call the three in the middle. They do. They wait to see because I'm thinking about hoping that their cars become Canada Geese landing spots for refueling.
Some folks don't really. I was about to say some folks really don't understand what kind of level of insult that is, but the folks that listen to our show should really understand what kind of a level that is.
Well, an insufferable hoser, insufferable, you can't deal with them. And hoser is the blueser that has to hose down the rink in order to prepare it for the next team or for the next day. So, yeah.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of the Canada Geese thing.
That too. Don't mess with our Cobra chickens.
Yeah, this is not going to sound like it has anything to do with anything. It really doesn't, but it bothered me. Folks, please help me out on this one. The plural of the word reindeer is reindeer, correct? It's not reindeers with an S?
I think it's been bastardized to reindeers.
I've never known it to have an S, but that's just me and my upbringing.
Yes, which back in the day, we actually had decent quality public education. I didn't say good,
Yeah.
I said decent. Okay, thank you.
So
the plural of reindeer is also reindeer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kind of like the plural of moose is still moose, not meese.
I mean, yes. Actually, plural of moose is get the fuck away from them.
Actually, the plural of moose is hit the brakes.
No, because it won't matter. It really won't.
No, you don't hit the brakes. You go around. And hope it doesn't fall.
It depends on where they are on the road. If you can hit the brakes, great. If you can dodge them.
I don't care about what the road at that point. It's a moose. I'm going around even if I have to go off-road.
Depends on what sort of road you're on. I was on a road once where if we went off-road, we'd be going into a lake and we would be saying goodbye.
I'd take my chances with the lake than the moose.
Depends.
No. This is frozen lake and imminent death. So no.
That's only if you go through the ice.
Which is possible.
I mean, depends on what kind of moose. Then, I mean, if it's just a moose, you can roll the dice. If it's a mama moose, and obvious mooselets, no, I'll take my chances on the ice.
Anyway, the school, because of that car accident that happened during school hours, that almost killed the poor crossing guard, and she's a wonderful lady. She actually makes sure that normal people, not just school-age children, but normal people crossing can cross safely. She was almost hit and killed. She's a wonderful lady. That school, it went up to the school district, because apparently there's the elementary school district, and then there's the high school district. Go figure. They voted immediately, without question, to put bollards and deep cemented fence in order to protect the kids. And it was done by January. And
Of course.
the city hall was like, oh, well, we don't have to do anything. The school district did stuff for us. It's like, you assholes.
You know, this actually works into a good piece that I wanted to kind of segue over into. If there's one thing that we've learned over the years is that the groups who do not want to work with marginalized groups, because that's what it ends up tending to be. Because out in the rural areas, in the less populated areas, you have, because of statistics, you have far more likely possibilities of finding people who conform, quote unquote, to the median, the largest groups. So in this country, in the United States, that tends to be white male. Tends to be. Is it always? No. But that would tend to be cis white het males. That's what you can expect more often. When you're dealing in areas where you have larger populations, you then have more statistically significant information. Populations, the quote-unquote marginalized, smaller, secondary, tertiary groups. The ones who end up being the ones who fall into the first category of the larger populations are the ones who have tended to be people who end up in positions of authority. Just because of the way that statistics have worked for all too long, because that's the institutionalized system that they've put into place. We can deal with all of that at a different point. However, there does not tend to be motion for these smaller groups until it directly affects those people who then have to come up face to face with the problem. Case in point, Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. Ronald Reagan had to deal with guns because he was shot at. One of his people was hurt. What did they eventually finally have to come face to face with? The idea that gun control, minimal that it might have been by comparison to what we would really like, was enacted, even though "you will take my guns from my cold dead hands" was still lurking in the background. What else? Oh, I don't know, maybe medical testing and research in order to help poor Ronnie with his Alzheimer's. Amazing how Ronnie's wife, Nancy Reagan, was an advocate for this kind of stuff when it was finally directly affiliated with her circles. John McCain, who finally had to come face to face with those who were not cis-het because it was directly in his circle and had to come to grips with it. It's almost as if, oh my God, when suddenly you have to deal with these things, you have to deal with these things. Like I said, you get these people to actually deal with the population on the population's level, suddenly there's actual reason for people to, I don't know, stop being shits. Am I cursing a lot more this week than I have been in previous weeks? Yeah. Yeah, I am. What of it?
Not mine, so fuck you.
Yeah. And that's, believe it or not, okay, so yeah, we've very, very specifically called that out before, that there are far too many people who have been in higher positions of authority and affiliated with a very specific political affiliated party who have basically made that their mantra, even if it's tacit. I got mine, fuck you. And I dare you, I triple dog dare you to show me where the lie is. So yeah, where am I wrong on this? I mean,
You're not wrong.
yeah, I mean, Brigid, from the medical piece with Nancy Reagan and the whole, oh God, which, I'm trying to remember now, which testing was it that they were doing? It was fetal cell testing, wasn't it? Am I thinking of the right thing?
In regards to,
With the Alzheimer's and
oh yeah, fetal stem cells.
fetal stem cells. I knew I had the right idea. I just couldn't remember where the hell the damn thing was. And she did a complete 180
Mm-hmm.
and pushed for it. And geez, imagine that.
Yep, it matters to them when it happens directly to them or affects them.
And that seems to be
But
for some of
other
these
than that,
people.
I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, don't care. But is it simply a product of their upbringing, or is it willful ignorance? Or worse yet, active malevolence?
Malfeasance.
I mean,
Actually,
sure, if you want to go ahead and make me look like an idiot because I don't know the word.
it's when you do something for somebody else specifically to harm them, or
There's
don't
that.
do something specifically and it ends up harming them.
I learned a new word today. I knew of the word. I actually didn't know the word well enough to use it in a sentence. And don't ask me to spell it because that's
Don't
just going to end
Mal
poorly for everybody.
MALFEA.
Okay, now you're just showing off.
I think I've
Yeah,
had to
that's
use it a
right.
few times against social workers when they've been a pain in the butt, as well as a few doctors and other people. Anyway, we
I think
had a president nomination. We had a president nominee shot. You would think that the party that belonged to that nominee would be going, "We have to ban guns." No, they're doubling down.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it. If you can't even keep your own presidents safe from assassination and assassination attempts, children, they're screwed. The regular public, they're screwed.
yep.
And the sycophants that are following them are just like, yeah, burn, baby, burn. Why?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's because they're depraved enough to where they get joy in hurting other people, if it's some kind of a backlash that they feel like they're losing power because they're not privileged anymore, or if they're just willfully ignorant, like Sarah Palin was. I mean, she was willfully ignorant. This is totally something else.
It's
It's malevolent.
Oh,
it's
and by
what
the
I
way,
saw.
Sarah Palin has a higher approval rating than JD Vance does.
Hmm.
The fact
It's
that the
it,
number is positive still annoys me, but go on.
it's what I saw with my father, who's American. I'm Canadian. I asked him if he would sponsor me. If he had sponsored me, I would have gotten a whole bunch of benefits because I wouldn't have had to claim my other half's income as mine, because now I'm married to stay here. Um, if he had sponsored me, if he had done the things that he had done or should have done, you know, but no, he said, "Screw you. I'm taking care of my family," and he meant my siblings, half siblings, and the nibblings, but not me. It's basically, this is what I've got and you're not touching it.
Never gonna
And
understand.
that's what they've got. That all of them have that same mentality. This is what I've got and you ain't touching it and I'm going to get more.
Don't get it. Don't get it. You know, there's once
I pulled
upon a
myself up by my bootstraps and you, you're a welfare queen because you're on welfare. It's like,
you know,
no, I'm not a welfare queen. I'm on disability because you broke my back.
yeah, the only time bootstrap should ever be used is as a trivia question for what booting a computer actually means. The idea that these people just they don't seem to want to care. We've mentioned how public education has just been hurt over the decades. It's been whittled away at for our lifetimes. And again, it's one of those things where you don't realize the incredibly slow turn until all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a minute. We're completely in a different direction from when we started. When did this happen? This whole wedge project stuff that's been done over the decades, over the years, over our lifetimes. So, you know, I'll use 1970 as a good pivot point because a lot of stuff started happening at that point. Yeah, there's other stuff that happened prior to, but you want to start looking at 1970 because it was only it was only a couple of years after that we stopped going to the moon. We stopped looking forward. It was no longer let's keep driving. Admittedly, the whole, you know, the space race was a political thing more than anything else, but it was something to drive us because we needed more people who were knowledgeable. We needed more scientists, mathematicians, people who had great learning. And stuff started to fall by the wayside. And
Look at the math.
Yeah.
Look at the math that is being taught kids in school. And I've gotten into huge arguments as to what's the order of operations. And I only have a grade 9 math level. I'm actually trying to see if I can get some extra high school credit stuff just so that my math level is higher. Yes, I'm a high school graduate. Yes, I've got some college, but I know where I'm deficient and I want to improve.
Yeah, and let's also remind folks, ninth grade Canadian. Now, I'm not saying that as disparaging. Matter of fact, I'm saying it as an encouragement. The education system in Canada, yes, it is generally speaking on par with the American, but the Canadian educational system tends to be just a bit higher in their overall standards of what they end up teaching, how well they teach it. And I'm not saying that because, you know, we're bad at it. It's just that we have a tendency in the United States of having the stuff be fragmented in 50 different states, broken down into who only knows how many counties, broken down into who only knows how many school districts. There is no countrywide standard in the United States for what should be. There's no minimum. It's just, I mean, there has been the beginnings of that at the educational department. The whole no student left behind ideal is a lofty one and a good one, but was met with so much derision that it's like, well, what group in Washington is supposed to be telling us how we're supposed to be teaching our kids out here? Yeah, that's kind of the idea, so that everybody knows what in the hell they're supposed to learn. Would be really nice if everybody had a minimum base area so we knew what everyone at least knew. And if that included learning other points of view, learning other histories, learning other peoples, languages, modes of agriculture. Maybe there'd be a little bit more, acceptance of everybody else. Because you get these kids into college and they get exposed to so many more people suddenly. Wow. Now you're complaining that higher learning in colleges and universities turn kids into radicalized leftists, progressives? Damn. I wonder why.
When I was 18, 19, running around Seattle, Tacoma, that area, I got sat down at a youth center and told to take an English and math quiz. No previous testing, no previous warm up, nothing. I was just told to sit. We want to evaluate you. We want to see where you are. 94% in both, maybe 95, something like that. And the teacher looked at me and said, "That's the highest result we ever got." Yeah, you guys didn't ask if I had graduated from high school. I did that last year. My grade 9 is the last time I am sure that I had actually passed math. I'm not sure if I passed grade 10 math because I took the 11E, which is the math that you need for every day, not math for higher sciences and whatnot. And yet somehow I was able to do Chem 12 with my math skill. Figure that out.
It's pretty good.
Well, here's one for you. My husband is teaching a course in a school in New York, and the student that he was just doing like an initial evaluation, like a placement kind of evaluation of where he needed to be.
Sure.
And could not get through to the student how to even take the evaluation, how to, and he tried very hard to even give him screen prints. He offered to Zoom, whatever he could do to help this student start their evaluation, and was being blamed for it by the, his boss and advisor and all this other stuff of not being able to get through to this student. However, once they finally got him figured out and assessed, his math score was like an 18%. His English score was a 20%. And this is someone who is not ESL or anything like that.
I also
And
learned math in 2 different languages. And
well,
some of the terms in French are different than English too.
well, yeah, and I'm saying that this person was just educated in a normal high school, not a foreigner, is, currently working as a manager at McDonald's or something, or a manager of some sort, and is needing to take, some kind of, classes to improve his career chances or whatever, and he can't even, he's testing at a second grade level for math and English skills. And my husband's supposed to try to work with this? How?
That's probably part of the No Child Left Behind. Oh, yeah, he's not doing that good. We'll just send him off to the next grade. He's not doing that good. Let's just send him off. That No Child Left Behind mentality ended up in Canada, and one of my kids was just pushed through the grades. And I'm looking at it and going, no,
He's not ready.
They're not ready. They need to go back. And then one of my other kids, same thing. I wanted them to take another year at kindergarten level. I wanted that one more year of kindergarten. Nope, grade 1.
Yeah, that isn't exact. that isn't quote unquote No Child Left Behind, because the idea of just pushing kids through from grade to grade just because that pre-existed that by literal decades. I remember having heard of kids that were just pushed forward year to year because it would be unseemly for the family for the kid not to go ahead and move forward. And it was just swept under the table, just poo-pooed away. It was just it really was just, it would be it would look bad on the family. And then it got turned around to, well, it would look bad on the district. And it was almost never dealt with from the standpoint of, these are kids that need to be, given more.
They need more help.
They need more help. They need more resources. And sadly, the only ways of dealing with it were either put them into, quote unquote, the troubled kids group, which doesn't help, or we don't have the money to do it, so they have to do it on their own and give it to the families to do it. Families that are not themselves trained educators. How well does that work? I'll give you a hint. It doesn't.
Oh, you don't have the money to put your kid into tutoring? Well, your kid's just going to get pushed through and pushed through and pushed through. And it doesn't matter. They're going to be pushed through to graduation, and they'll get their basic, and that's it. They won't actually be able to do anything. One of my kids is good with their hands. Another one of my kids is an artistic genius. Third one is a writing genius. That one's going to do books and be an author. And my other kid is also an artistic genius. But because they didn't have anybody to try and push them, they just sank instead of swam at school. The only way I can describe it.
It's fair to call it annoying.
Oh.
I wouldn't call it annoying. I would call it not letting the child succeed, not giving them an incentive to succeed.
But then you have these upper education schools now that are working on a business model, and they treat these students as clients, and therefore the student is always right and the professor is always wrong.
Yeah, that just works out every time, doesn't it?
I mean, my husband's been at this since, forever. And he's like, if he could go back in time, he would never have stepped near academia ever, because he didn't know that it was going to be like this.
No.
He just wanted to teach.
Yeah.
Some teachers are really, really good with the kids. There's other teachers that you kind of wonder if they purposely don't like kids, or specifically don't like that kid. I had one of those teachers that, actually I had a couple of them, but one in particular, it was right after a teacher strike, and I came into the room first day back, and there was some writing on the board, and I was having vision problems. Yeah, I was losing my sight. And I asked the teacher, okay, do I need to write that into my book right away, or is it going to be there after lunch or after recess? He said, yeah, it's going to be there after recess. It was gone. That one paragraph put me 7 months behind by April. And I had less than 2 months to do 7 months of work in French immersion and in social studies because of that teacher. And he said, yeah, she's going to fail and she's going to be kicked out of French immersion. So there's teachers that purposely sabotage kids.
Okay, so yes, there are teachers who purposely sabotage kids. I'm a victim of a teacher who had tenure in the state of New York and was an alcoholic and did not care if the kids could read or not. And if the kids couldn't read because they didn't put enough of their own effort into it, well, they must be too stupid to read, and they label them into various programs. Eventually, the teacher, they did find a way to get rid of her, but not before she caused a lot of harm over multiple generations. There's also a lot of good teachers, but the problem is that the teachers who want to teach, the teachers who love being around the kids, the teachers who love teaching the various things that they are, they've studied professionally and learned about, and they want to relay to the next generations and so on. It's very hard for them to live on a teacher's salary. We used to have a process in many states in this country where if you went to college to become a teacher, you didn't make payments on your loans. And then when you graduated, you would teach in a school, one of the many schools that would be listed for that area of the state based on the college or university that you went to and graduated from and so on. And you would serve a certain amount of years at one of that school group, that institution, and your loans would be forgiven.
They don't
And
do that anymore.
and you would still make the money that you made teaching at the school. So the teachers wouldn't be paying back the loans. Those would be held, but they'd still be making the money from the school that they would normally make, loan or no loan. So they had money to live off of. And the money they were making at the time went further than it does now. So every time I hear about a teachers union having a strike for more pay, I'm like, go for it. And when I hear the parents complain, I was like, they're doing it because you didn't stand up for them. You want your child to have better? You need to be on the side of the teachers. Yes, there are bad teachers, but there are more good teachers than bad teachers overall. And if you make teaching something where the people who really want to teach are able to do so, they will flood the market. Okay? It won't be hard to keep them. It won't be hard to attract them. We need to bring these things back. And unfortunately, we have the regressives. I refuse to call them the conservative party because that conservative party is long gone. The regressives don't want that. The regressives don't want that because it is easier to control ignorant people than it is to control educated people. I've said this over multiple shows in multiple ways, multiple examples. I'm not going to rehash everything here. But one thing I can point out that's relatively quick to point out is that when was the last time you heard about somebody taking a civics class in high school?
80s.
The regressives had it removed from as a requirement from high school education level and relegated it to college level, thereby immediately making it much harder for people who are poor and destitute and everything else to know what their rights are as a natural born citizen of this country. And in my opinion, that is just one of the many key things that was done to degrade the education of the public in this country. Remember, it all adds up, and you have these groups and organizations and politicians out there that are chipping away, and they don't have to. If Project 2025 doesn't get off the ground this year, they'll try again next time. They won't stop until they succeed.
Yep.
Because they are betting on people becoming tired of fighting, becoming tired of it. It's kind of like when you have that one person who wants something from you, so they keep pestering you until you give them what they want.
Yep.
Eventually,
And they've been And they've been chipping and chipping and chipping. Every time that we've talked about wedge issues, like I said, it's a slow, slow turn over literal decades. And now it's no longer a matter of that we're just gonna do little bits and pieces. They've got the momentum. Once they've got that last little bit where they can take the steering wheel and hard slam it to the left and hit the brakes, yeah, what do you think is gonna have happen?
And to tie it into what our channel or our show was originally about in terms of religion, the easiest way to get support for these regressive and conservative actions is to tie it into religion, because religion is inherently regressive or conservative, depending on which aspect of which religion you're looking at. And religions don't like change. They don't like free thinkers. They don't like these, challenges to authority and so on. So it's really easy for these groups like the Heritage Foundation. It's really easy for politicians. It's really easy for lobbyists to go to churches and other groups and go, it's in your best interest to tell your flock, your sheeple, as I call them, to vote for this political pundit because they're in support of this program. However, if another politician comes out in support of this program, you should vote them in too. And because the IRS has got no testicles, um,
Again, thank you, Reagan.
yep. When several churches even sent in videos and evidence that they were breaking the law, the federal law, where they were telling their sheeple who to vote for, which churches are not supposed to be doing that if they want to remain tax-free status. Um, they sent videos to the IRS saying, "Go ahead, revoke our IRS, our tax-free status. We dare you." And the IRS wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, there's been a few cases where IRS has done here or there or whatever, but they haven't really brought down the ban hammer on anybody like hard, make a good example of, no, you need to stop doing this and you need to stop doing it now or we're coming after all of you. The IRS doesn't have the funding or the time to do that.
Or the management too. Yeah, we
Or
gotta.
management.
No,
Yeah.
no. It's because the churches have lawyers,
Yeah, that too.
Mhm.
and IRS does not really want to go after the church lawyers. But
Yeah,
Joe Blow, who has the retirement fund, yeah, let's go after them. Or more specifically, they've screwed off and they've left us a $30,000 tax bill. Let's go after his wife and make her pay for 30 years, paying more than the original tax bill, and yet still owe the original tax bill.
yes, it's much easier for the IRS to go after somebody who can't afford an attorney than somebody who can. That's actually a known statistic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
We
yeah,
are
I mean,
Chief.
I'll make that the end of my piece.
Fair enough.
And you know, the only way to uh, combat this is you have to get the people out who are doing the harm at every level. It can't just be for president. This is something Americans don't seem to get. You have to vote at every level. If you have a sheriff who's voted in, if you have your local courts, judges, and such that are voted in, you need to research them, who they are, what they've done, if they have a history or not, and vote for the ones who not only will say that they want certain changes that align with bettering the country, but they actually demonstrate that they do it. Okay, that they don't support programs, that they demonstrated that they don't support things like Project 2025 and so on. And then you have to keep doing it nonstop. And that's the hard part.
Fair enough.
It's really hard.
Io, what last item you got?
The school system is starting up in Canada and the United States. Canada won't actually start up until after Labor Day. Pick your local school, go buy a box or two of feminine supplies and drop it off. Doesn't matter if it's an elementary school, doesn't matter if it's a high school, doesn't matter if it's a middle school, drop it off. Somebody will need them.
It's a really, really wonderful idea right there.
I've actually done it a couple times. When my kids are going to school, my eldest, or my ex and I are the eldest of the trio that we had. As soon as they hit the age when most of the girls were having their cycles start, sent them to school with an emergency kit, and it was actually used by their friends.
Very nice.
And I did the same when the younger two, as soon as they reached the age when it could be starting, I sent them to school with an emergency kit. But I also went to the school and I said, here, this is also teen size, so it should fit the kids. And the school nurse and vice principal just opened their eyes wide in astonishment and thank you, nobody ever gives us this.
Good on you there. Brigid, how about for you? Yeah, it's been a little while. You kind of out of practice, huh?
Yeah, just everybody go to your civic duty and bring people with you. This one is the most important election that we will ever face. And with 2025 hanging around ready to be implemented like that, elections are going to continue to matter. And we're going to have to choose as a country if we want to live under an authoritarian theocracy or not. That is the decision. And that's not hyperbole. That is what it is.
That's a thing. I'm basically blinding myself for y'all because that's the way that it works out. Because I was looking for a handful of very specific quotes to kind of help things along over here, and there was one that I found that was a very modern quote, but I was trying to remember. Well, weren't there some quotes from much earlier in history that kind of helped things along? And I found a couple of them. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Socrates. I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. Also, educate the children and it won't be necessary to punish the men. Pythagoras. Only the educated are free. Epictetus. The happy man is the one with a healthy body, a wealthy soul, and a well-educated nature. Thales. Root of honesty and virtue lies in good education. Plutarch. There is nothing more divine than education. It is only through education that one truly becomes man. Plato. The root of education is bitter, the fruit is sweet. Isocrates. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Finally, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. Aristotle. Look, we can talk all we want about the statistics of population densities, but it all comes down to experience. And if people don't have the experience, they're not going to learn. Yeah, you can go ahead, you can give book learning all you want. You can get people, teachers, into places all over the place. But if they're not actually giving the experiences to learn, the voices to be heard, it won't do a lick of good. People need to be able to do. They need to be able to learn. They need to be able to hear and see for themselves. Sometimes it's just as simple as being able to take a vacation outside of their bubble. By outside of that bubble, I don't just mean their county, their town, their city, their state. I mean outside of their country. An educated population understands other populations. I want that. I wanted to be an educator. And I'm sorry in some respects that I'm not. I'm also glad that I'm not. So we do what little we can. Without a master's degree, without a PhD, by just talking. Because as another philosopher once said, you can learn a lot just by listening. To those of you that are listening, just thank you. Know that we see you. Thank you for being with us, of course, again this week. Welcome back to all of you. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. Really do appreciate you. Tech, glad you're able to make it, and hopefully there is nothing broken from your cats deciding that they're going to use the Indianapolis 500 as a blueprint for how to deal with the evening.
Nah, everything's fine.
Cool. You take care of yourself. Good to have you back, man. Take care.
You too.
Io, again, thank you for being able to join us. Yeah, I think it's fair to kind of put you on the official roster at this point, wouldn't you think?
Nah. Shinsifa.
Thanks for being able to be with us, hon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could touch and so many things that we could speak about and so little time to do it.
I know. Everybody thinks that 2 hours is such a long friend. No, it's not. It really isn't. But thank you, hon. Appreciate it. Brigid, it's been a while. If you've got several people that are richly deserving, by all means, the floor is yours.
Oh goodness, it's a toss-up. I'm gonna give a big fuck you to Nancy Mace for your racist bullshit on CNN.
I missed that one then. Okay, I've got research
There
to do.
was an interview in CNN can go fuck themselves too. There was an interview with a black MAGA merchandise seller that was meant to be race baiting, and Nancy Mace went full on in there, and she's in a gerrymandered district. Where the Supreme Court that said that it was fine, that it was gerrymandered all down, hell and back, and she can't seem to pronounce Kamala Harris's name correctly for some odd reason. And also referred to some grown black men as boys. So, yeah. And it turned into a Jerry Springer shitfest on CNN that CNN was fully complicit in being a party to and keeps having her back. So they can go fuck themselves too. And so can Elon Musk. Apartheid Clyde needs to just go fuck himself all the way back off to South Africa.
That sounds fair. That sounds fair. Welcome back.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You've been holding some of this back. Brigid and I have had an opportunity of kind of touching base every once in a while. It is fair to say that, this is definitely therapy that needs to happen, and I'm sorry it hasn't been able to happen more often. So good to have you back.
Yeah, real life is just kicking me in the nards.
Don't worry, I'll keep him company.
Thank you.
Wolfman's got nards.
You know, this is not going to sound like it works together. It really does. One of the things that I have on my phone to play is the recording of the episode Aerodust from when I was on with Sam Mulvey and Rebecca Friedman over on Ask an Atheist. Now, this was just shortly after Washington State had issued their lockdowns for COVID. So it goes back a little ways. But I keep that on my phone so that I can play it every once in a while for myself, because I am vain as all get out. I will admit this. But one of the things that I love to replay is to hear Sam's laughter when, at the beginning, and I'm introducing myself in the show, explain that the reason why we start the show at 12:05 Eastern Time, and literal quote, is because I specifically wanted us to run counter to Coast AM with Art Bell. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Art Bell, until he became medically stable, was a personality who had a radio show on AM mostly, which was all about the fringe, conspiracy theory, cryptid, UFO type people, and people would call in and whatnot. And you go ahead, you talk about the Wolfman. All I can think of now is all of the Bigfoot signs that are all over the place now, and signs that say "I believe," and that translates into the Wolfman now. And okay, that's you're making me funny.
Clap for the Wolfman.
By the way, fun fact is, for those who are unaware, Wolfman's got nards is a quote from a movie called The Monster Squad. Excellent
Goonies.
movie. It's the monster version of Goonies, basically. It's a good, funny movie. Well, there was another movie made called Wolfman's Got Nards, which is a documentary exploring the power of cult classic films, specifically the Monster Squad, and its fans, the cast, the crew, everything else. So, there are things that we have that we grew up with where there are quotes from movies and things like that that have just absolutely changed things. And so, if you get a chance, watch some of these things. If you're bored with what you've seen on TV, if you're bored with what's on Netflix and everything else, watch some of these documentaries about Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and maybe Wolfman's Got Nards for the Monster Squad, and so on. Stuff about the various cartoons and toys of our times. You'll find things that are very interesting that you may not have realized, and broaden your horizons a little bit. Plus, it's half the time better than what's going on in politics.
Fair. So, everybody, you take care of yourselves, and thank you for being with us. Over there on the chat, Stephanie, hope the food has arrived unblemished. Take care of yourself. Seeker, good to see you. Briefly, take care of yourself. And Felis, also, you take care of yourself, hon. I don't want to hear that you've gone ahead and you've burned yourself cooking something again. Just be careful. And folks, we'll be looking forward to seeing you again sometime real soon. If you want to take a swing over to the website, of course, holycrapthevlogcast.com. Got you over there. I need to kind of update some of the information because I have allowed the phone to expire. The phone that we got through Google basically gets no traffic. I don't have any real use for it. And it was free, so it's okay. Had it for however long. So I will be removing that information. If you'd like to be in touch with us one way or another, feel free. The website has got all of our contact, and of course, feel free to join us over in the Discord, because if ever there's a time where you're kind of like, I need a voice, need somebody to listen, we'll be here for you as best we can. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you again come next week. Assuming that everything works the way that it's supposed to, I'll let you know otherwise if that's the case. So till the next time we're together, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And, Pooch, I know, should have been 55. We should have been 55 together. As always, I am still in love. Well, Matane Fujin, I love you, I miss you, you dream of me. And until the next time we're together, everyone, as always,